very interesting from a lot of perspectives, not all of them about boxing. Your life in the Ukraine when you were younger, it was pretty tough. There are some rather bleak scenes of where you grew up.
Damals ist mein Vater stationiert worden in Kiew. Wir sind aus Prag, aus Tschechei, damalige Tschechoslowakei, hierher gekommen, nur für ein paar Wochen. Und dann sollten wir ein Apartment bekommen in der Stadt. Aus ein paar Wochen sind genau 2 Jahre geworden. In die 2 Jahren haben wir in diesem Zimmer zu 5 gewohnt. Mit Oma, Mutter, Vater, Bruder und der Onkel. Ab und zu auch mal da.
I never thought that this film will find the audience as big as it is.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was behind this film actually to give a lot of answers for a lot of questions for Klitschko fans or just fans of sport of boxing. This film also transforming a message and sending a message that if you really focus and if you really want to achieve something, it's not always going up in your life and in your career. It goes sometimes down, and when you hit the floor very hard,
Sure.
you have to find the strength to get up and not lose the focus on your target. And eventually you're gonna catch it.
Никогда мы с мужем и не мечтали, и не думали, что наши дети будут заниматься боксом.
Because you say early on that the secret that both of you have is each other. That's something your opponents perhaps don't think about it. So after, say, the Brewster fight, or any setback you had in your career, there was Vitaly was either nearby or to argue with or talk with. I mean, it wasn't all plain sailing, but he was always there as well, and you were always there for him.
It's true. I was born, my brother was right there, and it has been changed in all these years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think without my brother, I won't even sitting here and giving you an interview.
Und in diesem Korridor, genau hier, Vitali und ich, der Vitali sagt noch, komm Wladimir, ziehen wir die Boxhandschuhe an, lass uns mal boxen. Ich meine, ich war gerade 10 oder 11, lass uns mal boxen. Und dann stand ich genau hier, ich erinnere das wie jetzt. Und Vitali gegenüber und dann haut mir einen rein. Das hat mir überhaupt nicht geschmeckt. Also von Boxen habe ich Angst bekommen.
What about that period after the Brewster fight, which wasn't that pleasant for you? You and Vitaly didn't see eye to eye for a little while after that.
Well, I think all the younger brothers will understand me. We're following in the footsteps of elder brothers, and especially with a gap of age of 5 years. It's something that is happening automatically to you. So you're looking up to your brother. You want to do the same thing. You want to achieve the same thing. You want to do it as good as he and do it even better. And but we have different characters. We have different way of thinking. Even if we similar, but we're also different. We're not cloned. So at a certain time we realized that it's better to take a break.
Yeah.
And there was my initiative to say, Vitaly, I don't want to see you in the gym anymore.
How did
I
he
want to
take
do
that?
it my own. So
Was he okay with that?
it was tough to accept.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough to accept. I mean, he probably didn't mean it bad, and you know, it's always older brothers are caring about youngers and want to be protective of a lot of things. But at a certain time, you have to let it go.
Sure.
And it was difficult for Vitaly to let it go, and I understand it, and I knew it.
Uh-huh.
But eventually, the distance to each other in this way made us closer.
You also say early on in the film that you realized that boxing is brutal. It seems to me the way you box, you try to take the brutality out of it. You make it scientific. It's almost like a surgeon operating on a table.
It's very interesting to hear your analyzing of what I said and the way I fight. Yeah, actually, somewhere you're right, because I'm trying to keep the face of my opponent more or less not damaged,
Right.
but eventually to execute the plan and knock him out.
Yes.
And that's my strategy, and I'm not going to change it. And it's something that I've been taught before. First thing, not to get hit. Second thing, you have to knock
Sure.
the person out. And it's very difficult to fight this way because you have to learn a lot.
Sure.
And you have to go through a lot of experience. But I'm glad that I eventually learned the lesson, and I'm going to succeed with my plan.
There must have been some fights, and we don't even need to say who it was against, where you would love to have scored a big knockout, and yet you kept your discipline against David Haye.
Discipline, game plan, and cold-blooded with no emotion. It's very difficult, but it's the secret of success.
Hmm. And how tough is that to do? I mean, boxing is all about discipline, isn't it?
Yes, completely.
Hmm.
If you're disciplined, you will go ahead and you can stay successful for many years.
Have you ever had moments in the ring where your gut instinct to survive maybe overcomes that discipline?
I haven't survived. And I haven't had discipline to keep myself in a survivor mood in the fight with Corey Sanders, for example.
Right.
I supposed to, clinch, and supposed to kind of back up and not to run and take a revenge right away, which I wasn't able to do. So that's why I lost. Otherwise, I probably could make a difference, but I didn't. And I learned the lesson, and I definitely was good. It was a good lesson, painful, but good.
What was the point, and is it fair to say that it becomes addictive? What was the point when it changed from being a fascination for you, boxing, to something you could never really walk away from? Was there a particular fight or a period in your career you thought, this is my life now?
That actually put me in boxing and stick to boxing. After I lost.
Right,
After I
really?
lost, especially last two fights.
Uh-huh.
Last two fights that I lost
Sure.
during of 1 year.
Uh-huh.
My brother said, that's it for you. Take a look in the mirror at your face after the fight. It's all bruised up and black-eyed and doesn't look well.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't. But the inside voice told me, Vladi, you gotta stick to strategy. You gotta change your team. You gotta make major change in yourself, and you definitely belonging to the other level of the sport and not to this one where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot even tell you, but something, the common sense told me I have to move forward, and I want to do it the way I want to do it. And I think it was the right decision.
If there's one thing you've brought to boxing, especially in this country, is the dignified way you've conducted yourself in pretty difficult circumstances with David Haye. And I have to ask you this question. What do you think of the Haye-Chisora fight? I know you've spoken about it before, but if you could just tell me, do you think it's good or bad for the sport, or do you care what happens about it?
Absolutely bad
Right.
for the sport. And I'm talking about not about David Haye. I'm talking about Chisora.
Mm-hmm.
That what kind of example we're giving for the young athletes, for the youth. The more you're a freak, the more money you're gonna make, and more known you're gonna be. There's something. That's the message that actually transforms this fight, and that's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
To any champions that has been working and polishing to make the heavy division and sport of boxing as glamorous, as cool, as good, as a gentleman's sport, as it is actually.
Mm-hmm.
But this is unfortunately a negative example. Maybe I will take a look at it in a different way. Maybe it's a good thing what is happening, because you can see what is good and what's bad. And that's why I think it's unfortunately giving a bad example. But without bad example, you probably won't know good example. So, but I think it was enough with the example in the Vitalis fight, which Sora, to stop it right there and not let it go, as for example now with Hay fight.
Who do you think wins out of that fight?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.